Are your relationships a source of strength or sometimes a source of stress? Marcus Aurelius once said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." This idea, simple yet profound, is the cornerstone of how Stoicism can revolutionize the way we connect with others. In a world where relationships often feel like a complex puzzle, what if there was a way to navigate them with more resilience and less emotional turmoil? We're diving into 50 practical strategies rooted in Stoic philosophy, designed to transform your perspective, foster healthier connections, and ultimately bring more peace to your interactions. Prepare to explore how ancient wisdom can guide you to build stronger, more meaningful relationships in today's fast-paced world. Isn't it a common source of frustration in relationships when our partners consistently leave the lights on, or perhaps they have a habit of being perpetually late? These little imperfections can sometimes feel like major offenses. The Stoics, however, propose a different perspective, one centered on accepting what we cannot change. This acceptance is not about condoning negative behavior, but rather about recognizing the inherent imperfections in ourselves and others. Seneca, one of the most quotable Stoics, wisely stated, "Expecting someone to be perfect is a sure way to be disappointed." This perspective acknowledges the reality of human nature. Everyone has flaws, it's part of being human. Applying this to your relationships simply means fostering more realistic expectations. Consider a scenario where your friend frequently interrupts you during conversations. Instead of getting annoyed each time, acceptance might involve recognizing this as a quirk of their personality. It doesn't mean you can't gently address it, but it does mean you approach the situation with greater understanding and less irritation. Similarly, in a work environment, accepting that a colleague might not meet every deadline with perfect precision can temper your reactions and allow for more constructive problem solving. Think about one particular flaw you find hard to accept in your partner or even a close friend. What are the reasons that make it so difficult to accept? Recognizing your reasons is the first step toward a more understanding and ultimately a more peaceful relationship. How much time do we lose caught up in trying to change the people around us? Stoicism offers a powerful alternative. Focus on what you can control, which is primarily yourself. This core idea revolves around directing your energy towards self-improvement and managing your own reactions rather than attempting to control others. Epictetus wisely said that we should concern ourselves with our own judgments, ensuring they align with virtue. This is where our true power lies, not in bending others to our will. It's a challenging but liberating mindset shift. Consider a frustrating situation, perhaps a colleague who consistently misses deadlines. Instead of trying to micromanage their work or getting angry, a Stoic approach would involve managing your own expectations and reactions. Can you adjust your project timeline? Can you communicate your needs more effectively? These are areas where you have direct influence. Think about a recent instance where you tried to control someone else's behavior. Maybe you pushed a family member to adopt a healthier lifestyle or tried to dictate a friend's choices. How did that go? What if instead you had focused on being a positive example and controlling your own reactions to their choices? It's often more effective and certainly more peaceful. True understanding holds immense power in fostering connections between people. In Stoicism, empathy isn't just a feel-good sentiment. It's a virtue rooted in reason and the understanding that we're all interconnected. It's about acknowledging others' experiences while maintaining a clear perspective. Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "Understand first the condition of the person whose action affects you." This quote highlights the importance of considering another person's circumstances before reacting. Approaching interactions with this mindset allows us to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Imagine a scenario where a friend consistently cancels plans at the last minute. Instead of reacting with frustration or annoyance, practice empathetic understanding. Perhaps they are dealing with unseen pressures at work or personal struggles they haven't shared. By considering their perspective, you can respond with support and patience, strengthening your bond and addressing the real issue rather than simply reacting to the surface behavior. Reflect upon a time when you truly understood another person's feelings. How did that understanding change your response and the overall dynamic of your relationship? Let's turn our attention to the profound impact gratitude can have on our relationships. It's a powerful shift in perspective, moving our attention away from what we feel is lacking and focusing instead on the abundance of what we already possess. In the realm of Stoicism, this aligns perfectly with the principle of appreciating the present moment. We often find ourselves caught up in what we wish our relationships could be, or what we think we deserve, rather than truly seeing and valuing what is right in front of us. Seneca, that great Stoic philosopher, reminds us of the importance of gratitude when he said, "A benefit is lost if it is not gratefully received." How often do we receive kindness, support, or love from those around us only to let it pass unnoticed? Cultivating gratitude ensures that we not only acknowledge these gifts, but also allow them to enrich our lives and strengthen our bonds. One practical way to nurture this sense of appreciation is through a simple yet effective practice, keeping a gratitude journal specifically focused on your relationships. Each day, take a few moments to write down specific things you are thankful for about your partner, your friends, or your family members. These can be small gestures, acts of love, or even qualities that you admire in them. So, let me ask you this. What are 3 things you're genuinely grateful for about your partner or the significant relationships in your life? Take a moment to really consider this and perhaps even share your gratitude with those you appreciate. Embracing gratitude in this way not only enhances your own contentment, but also deepens the connections you share with others. How often do we really listen when someone is talking to us? So often, we're just waiting for our turn to speak, formulating our response instead of truly hearing what the other person is saying. In relationships, this can be a real problem, and it's where the Stoic principle of active listening comes into play. Active listening is all about being fully present in a conversation, focusing intently on understanding your partner's perspective. It goes beyond just hearing the words. It's about grasping the emotions, the unspoken needs, and the deeper meaning behind what's being said. This aligns perfectly with the Stoic emphasis on mindfulness and being present in the moment. When we're truly present, we can better understand and respond with wisdom and empathy. Epictetus, among other Stoic philosophers, highlighted the importance of understanding before responding. It's not about winning an argument or proving a point, but about genuinely connecting and understanding the other person's viewpoint. This approach fosters mutual respect and strengthens the bond between partners. So, how can you practice active listening? Start by making a conscious effort to focus solely on your partner when they're speaking. Put away distractions, make eye contact, and really pay attention to their words and body language. Summarize what they've said to ensure you've understood correctly, and ask clarifying questions to delve deeper into their feelings and thoughts. For example, you might say, "So, it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because," or "Can you tell me more about why that made you upset?" Take a moment to consider how well you practice active listening in your relationships. Are you truly present and engaged, or are you just waiting for your turn to talk? It's a skill that takes practice, but the rewards in understanding and connection are well worth the effort. How often have you found yourself in a disagreement, only to realize it stemmed from simply assuming what the other person was thinking or feeling? It's a common pitfall, and one that Stoicism directly addresses by emphasizing the critical role of rational judgment. Central to Stoicism is the idea that we should not rush to conclusions. Instead, we must approach situations with careful consideration. Seneca wisely noted, "To know is nothing unless you know that you know." This quote underscores the importance of not just having knowledge, but also being certain that our understanding is accurate, especially when dealing with others. Assumptions can quickly lead to miscommunication and conflict. For instance, imagine a scenario where you're planning a surprise party for a friend. You assume they would want a large gathering, only to discover they actually prefer intimate celebrations. Or perhaps you interpret a colleague's silence in a meeting as disapproval, when in reality they were simply deep in thought. These everyday examples show how assumptions can create unnecessary friction and hurt feelings. Clear, direct communication is the antidote. Asking questions, seeking clarification, and actively listening are key ways to ensure mutual understanding and prevent many common relational issues. Take a moment to consider a recent misunderstanding you've experienced. Did assumptions play a role? Reflecting on these instances can provide valuable insights into how we can apply Stoic principles to improve the clarity and accuracy of our interactions. Think about how much energy it takes to hold onto anger, to replay past hurts in your mind. All that mental and emotional weight can be exhausting, and the Stoics understood this burden well. Forgiveness, in their view, isn't about excusing someone's actions or pretending they didn't happen. Instead, it's a conscious decision to release yourself from the pain and resentment that those actions cause. It's aligning yourself with what you can control, your own reactions and emotions, and letting go of the rest. Seneca put it best when he said, "Forgiveness benefits the forgiver more than the forgiven." Think about that for a moment. Holding onto anger is like grasping a hot coal. You're the one who gets burned. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is like dropping that coal, freeing yourself from the immediate pain. Imagine a situation where a friend betrays your trust, perhaps by sharing a secret you confided in them. Your initial reaction might be anger, hurt, and a desire for revenge. But what if, instead of dwelling on those feelings, you chose to understand their actions, recognizing that people make mistakes and that everyone is on their own journey? By forgiving them, not necessarily condoning what they did, you free yourself from the bitterness that would otherwise consume you and potentially salvage the relationship. Now think about someone in your own life, or even yourself, where forgiveness might be needed. Is there a situation where letting go of resentment could bring you greater peace? Sometimes the most profound act of Stoic practice is forgiving not only others but also ourselves, acknowledging our imperfections and moving forward with greater self-compassion. It's easy to see how impatience can quickly unravel the fabric of any relationship. Think about how often misunderstandings escalate simply because we don't allow the other person the time and space to fully express themselves, or how quickly frustration can boil over when things don't go exactly as we plan. Stoicism offers a valuable counterpoint to this reactive impatience, encouraging us to cultivate patience as both a virtue and a practical skill. Patience, in the Stoic sense, isn't just about passively waiting. It's an active form of perseverance and acceptance. It means understanding that growth, both in ourselves and in our partners, is rarely linear. There will be setbacks, stumbles, and moments of misunderstanding. It also is about recognizing that external factors, challenges, and life events take the time they take and require us to deal with them in the best way we can. Stoics understand that clinging to unrealistic expectations or timelines only leads to disappointment and resentment. Marcus Aurelius wisely told us that, begin each day by telling yourself, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil." This quote isn't meant to breed cynicism, but rather to prepare us for the inevitable imperfections of human interaction and to meet them with understanding rather than immediate irritation. Consider a scenario where your partner is working to overcome a personal challenge, perhaps a difficult habit or a long-held fear. Progress might be slow, and there might be times when they backslide. Impatience could lead you to criticize or nag, potentially undermining their efforts and damaging your connection. However, approaching the situation with stoic patience allows you to offer support and understanding without judgment, recognizing that setbacks are a natural part of the journey. Think back to a time when you felt yourself losing patience in a relationship. What triggered that feeling, and how might a more patient, stoic approach have altered the situation's outcome and your emotional state? If there's one absolute truth we can rely on, it's that everything changes and relationships are no exception. Stoicism embraces this impermanence not as a cause for despair, but as a fundamental aspect of existence. The Stoics saw the changing nature of everything as simply part of the natural order. A relationship that remains static is in some ways an impossibility. People grow, circumstances shift, and the dynamics between individuals evolve. It's like a river always flowing, never the same from one moment to the next. Marcus Aurelius captured this sentiment beautifully when he said something along the lines of, "Don't be bothered by what is external, commit to what is before you." While this isn't an exact quote and precise wording may vary across translations, the essence is about accepting the transient nature of all things and focusing on what you can control in the present moment. The key to applying this Stoic principle lies in managing your expectations. Instead of clinging to an idealized version of how a relationship should be, recognize that it will inevitably transform over time. This doesn't mean lowering your standards. Rather, it means embracing the journey and adapting to the different phases of the relationship. In long-term partnerships, for example, the initial passion may give way to a deeper, more companionate love. Accepting this shift can prevent disappointment and foster a more resilient bond. Take a moment to consider your own relationships. How have they changed since they began? What adaptations have you made? Recognizing this evolution allows you to appreciate the present and approach the future with greater acceptance and equanimity. Values are the compass that guides our decisions, particularly in the complex landscape of relationships. If you don't know where north is, it does not matter which direction you choose. So, what are the values that are most important to you? Stoicism places great emphasis on aligning our lives with virtue and our deeply held personal values. This isn't just about abstract ideals, it's about making conscious choices that reflect who we are at our core. It's about integrity in action. Epictetus wisely said something like, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." Think about that for a second. How many people in your life truly inspire you to be a better version of yourself? Shared values obviously form a powerful foundation for lasting and meaningful relationships. For instance, a couple who both value honesty and open communication are far more likely to navigate challenges successfully. Similarly, friends who share a commitment to personal growth can support each other's journeys and create a deeply enriching bond. On the other hand, differing views on the importance of money can lead to all sorts of problems if they aren't addressed head-on. Take a moment to consider your own core values. What principles truly matter to you? Now, reflect on your relationships and consider how well they align with these values. Are there any areas where you feel a disconnect? Exploring these questions can provide invaluable insights into the health and potential of your connections with others. Fostering healthy relationships begins with embracing self-sufficiency. Stoicism champions the idea that true contentment arises from within. and this inner strength is crucial for navigating the complexities of any relationship. When we're secure in ourselves, we're less likely to place undue burdens or expectations on others. This notion of self-reliance perfectly mirrors the Stoic pursuit of inner peace. Instead of seeking validation or happiness from external sources, Stoics cultivate a sense of contentment that's independent of fleeting circumstances or the actions of others. This isn't to say we should isolate ourselves, but rather that our emotional well-being shouldn't hinge on external factors. Seneca wisely noted, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This highlights the importance of selecting companions who support your growth and self-improvement, rather than those who foster dependence or negativity. Think about this in practical terms. Engaging in hobbies or pursuing personal interests not only enriches your life but also reinforces your self-reliance. Perhaps you find joy in painting, writing, hiking, or volunteering. These activities provide a sense of purpose and fulfillment that isn't contingent on anyone else's involvement or approval. They become sources of joy and satisfaction that are entirely your own. Take a moment to reflect. How much do you currently rely on others for your happiness? Can you identify areas where you might foster greater self-reliance, whether through pursuing a new hobby, setting personal goals, or simply spending more time in quiet contemplation? Cultivating this inner strength not only enhances your own well-being but also strengthens the foundation of your relationships, allowing them to flourish in a healthy, balanced way. It's often the things left unsaid, the subtle hints and veiled implications that chip away at the foundation of a relationship. Instead of building bridges, indirect communication erects walls of misunderstanding and resentment. In the philosophy of Stoicism, clarity isn't just a virtue, it's a pathway to reasoned living. When we communicate openly and honestly, we're aligning ourselves with the Stoic values of truth and rationality. It means expressing our thoughts and feelings directly without manipulation or hidden agendas. This approach minimizes the chances of misinterpretation and fosters a deeper sense of trust. The philosopher Epictetus once said something that encapsulates this idea. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputation from storms and tempests. When we apply this to our relationships, we see that communicating directly, especially during difficult times, is what truly tests and strengthens the bond. It's in those moments of clear and honest exchange that we demonstrate our commitment to reason and truth. Consider a scenario where a partner consistently arrives late for dates. Instead of making passive-aggressive comments or withdrawing emotionally, clear communication would involve expressing the impact of their lateness directly but kindly. For instance, saying, "I feel undervalued when you're late because it makes me feel like my time isn't important," addresses the issue without resorting to blame or accusation. Similarly, imagine a friend who frequently interrupts you. Rather than letting resentment build, a direct approach might involve saying, "I appreciate our conversations, but I feel like I'm not being heard when I'm constantly interrupted. Could we work on making sure we both have a chance to speak?" Think about a recent miscommunication you experienced. Could a more direct approach have led to a better outcome? How might embracing Stoic principles of honesty and reason transform your interactions moving forward? It's tough to hear when someone points out our flaws, isn't it? Our first instinct is often to get defensive or dismiss what's being said. But Stoicism offers a different way to look at criticism, as a valuable tool for self-improvement. Think of it this way: challenges are opportunities in disguise. Each piece of feedback, even if it stings a little, is another chance to refine our character and strengthen our relationships. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, If anyone proves me wrong and shows me my mistake in any thought or deed, I will gladly change. I seek the truth which never yet hurt anybody. It is only persistence in self-delusion and ignorance which does harm. Let's consider a practical scenario. Imagine your partner tells you that you aren't listening when they share their feelings. Instead of arguing back or getting upset, you could choose to really hear them. Ask clarifying questions, show empathy, and make a conscious effort to be more attentive in the future. This approach not only strengthens your relationship but also makes you a better communicator. How do you usually react when someone offers you criticism? Take a moment to consider that. Next time, try to approach the situation with a Stoic mindset. See the feedback as a chance to learn something new about yourself and how you can grow. It's often the extremes that rock the boat in our relationships, isn't it? Whether it's excessive displays of affection or complete emotional detachment, these behaviors can create instability and strain. That's where the Stoic principle of moderation comes into play, guiding us toward a balanced and harmonious approach. Moderation, in the Stoic view, directly reflects the virtues of temperance and balance. It's about finding that sweet spot, avoiding both deficiency and excess. Think of it as the golden mean in relationships, not too hot, not too cold, but just right. Seneca, for instance, advised, "The happy life is to be measured not by its length but by its use," suggesting that quality and balance are more important than quantity. So, how does this look in practice? Let's say you and your partner enjoy spending time together. Moderation doesn't mean avoiding each other, but it does mean recognizing the importance of individual space and interests. It's about finding the right level of togetherness without suffocating each other. Similarly, with emotions, moderation isn't about suppressing what you feel, but about expressing it in a thoughtful and measured way, avoiding explosive outbursts or passive-aggressive silences. It applies to expectations as well. Keeping them reasonable avoids disappointment and unrealistic demands on your partner. Consider where you might be swinging to extremes in your own relationships. Are you constantly seeking reassurance, or are you completely closed off? Finding that middle ground, that point of equilibrium, is key to cultivating healthier and more resilient connections. It's often said that expectations are just premeditated disappointments, and nowhere is this truer than in our relationships. Clinging tightly to how we think things should be, how a partner should act, how a friend should respond, sets us up for frustration and resentment. The Stoics understood this long ago. They knew that trying to control external events, including the actions of others, is a recipe for unhappiness. Instead, they focused on what they could control, their own thoughts, judgments, and reactions. Letting go of expectations is a direct application of this principle. It's about accepting that people will be who they are, not who we want them to be, and finding peace in that reality. Marcus Aurelius wisely advised, "You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they don't care at all." He highlights the importance of adapting to the world as it is, rather than trying to force it into a preconceived mold. This applies beautifully to relationships. When we release our need for others to behave a certain way, we free ourselves from a lot of unnecessary emotional turmoil. Consider, for instance, a common scenario. You anticipate your partner will plan a grand gesture for your birthday, and when they simply offer a heartfelt card, you feel let down. Releasing that expectation doesn't mean you don't deserve grand gestures, but it does mean you recognize their expression of love, even if it doesn't match your ideal. Or imagine you expect a friend to always be available for advice, but they sometimes need space. Accepting their boundaries allows the friendship to thrive, rather than straining under unmet demands. What expectations are you currently holding in your relationships? Take a moment to consider, what if you released just one of those expectations? How might that shift improve your connection and bring you a greater sense of calm? Have you ever considered the profound value of solitude in a world that constantly demands our attention? Stoicism teaches us that embracing time alone is not a sign of loneliness, but rather an opportunity for profound personal reflection and growth. It's about cultivating an inner sanctuary where we can connect with our thoughts and values, free from external influences. This aligns directly with the Stoic principle of self-sufficiency. By learning to be content and fulfilled in our own company, we reduce our dependence on external validation and find a more stable foundation for our happiness. This doesn't mean we should avoid relationships, but rather that we approach them from a place of inner strength and independence. Seneca, one of the most quotable Stoic philosophers, wisely noted, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This extends beyond our social circles to include our relationship with ourselves. Solitude provides the space to evaluate whether our actions align with our values, fostering self-awareness and personal integrity. How can we put this into practice? Start by scheduling regular periods of solitude, even if it's just for 15 to 30 minutes each day. Use this time for activities like journaling, meditation, or simply taking a quiet walk in nature. The key is to be fully present with your thoughts without distractions. Think about how you currently view solitude. Is it something you avoid, or do you embrace it as an opportunity for self-discovery? Perhaps by intentionally seeking out moments of quiet reflection, you will find a renewed sense of self and a deeper understanding of what truly matters to you. Inner turmoil can cast a long shadow, often coloring our interactions and relationships in ways we don't fully realize. But what if you could navigate those relationships from a place of calm, collected strength? Cultivating inner peace, according to Stoicism, isn't just about feeling good. It's about building a foundation for healthier, more meaningful connections. At the heart of Stoicism lies the pursuit of tranquility, a state of mind undisturbed by the chaos of external events. This doesn't mean ignoring the world, but rather approaching it with a sense of reasoned acceptance and emotional stability. When we are at peace within ourselves, we are far less likely to react impulsively or project our insecurities onto those around us. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us that nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. This profound statement underscores the idea that our inner world is the ultimate source of peace, a sanctuary we can access regardless of external circumstances. It is from this inner sanctuary that we can approach relationships with patience, understanding, and genuine empathy. So, how do we cultivate this inner peace? Stoicism offers a range of practical tools, from daily meditation and mindfulness exercises to the practice of journaling and self-reflection. Even simple acts like taking a few moments each day to focus on your breath can have a transformative effect on your overall sense of calm. These practices help us to detach from the emotional turbulence and observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment, fostering a greater sense of inner harmony. Take a moment to consider your own level of inner peace. How often do you find yourself reacting impulsively in your relationships? What steps can you take starting today to cultivate a greater sense of tranquility within yourself? Embracing these steps is not merely self-care, it's an investment in the quality and resilience of every relationship you hold dear. How often do relationship troubles stem from simply not knowing ourselves well enough? Self-awareness, in the context of Stoicism, isn't just about understanding what you like or dislike. It's about a deep introspection into your character, your virtues, and perhaps more importantly, your vices. It's about understanding what truly drives your reactions and behaviors. This aligns perfectly with the Stoic emphasis on self-examination. Think of it as regularly auditing your inner self, identifying areas that need improvement, and acknowledging strengths to build upon. It's an ongoing process, not a one-time discovery. As Marcus Aurelius noted, within man is the soul, and within the soul is the power to judge himself. This quote underscores the Stoic belief that we each possess the capacity for self-assessment and improvement. It's a call to action to turn inward and understand our own workings. Practically, this might mean recognizing that you tend to become defensive when criticized. Armed with this self-awareness, you can consciously choose to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Or perhaps you struggle with patience. This awareness can prompt you to practice more mindful communication, preventing misunderstandings rooted in haste. Consider this: what are the consistent patterns in your relationships? Are there recurring arguments or frustrations? Taking the time to mindfully identify your contributions to these patterns is a pivotal step toward greater self-awareness and ultimately healthier relationships. Gossip, it seems harmless, maybe even a little fun, but think about the subtle erosion it causes, not just to the person being discussed, but to your own character as well. In Stoicism, integrity is paramount, and nothing chips away at your integrity quite like speaking ill of others behind their backs. It's so easy to fall into, isn't it? A bit of juicy news here, a cutting remark there. The act of gossiping often stems from insecurity or a need to feel superior, things that Stoicism directly challenges us to overcome. When we engage in gossip, we're implicitly participating in a cycle of negativity and potential harm. Instead, Stoicism encourages us to focus on what we can control, our own words and actions. Speaking directly to someone about a concern rather than involving others embodies this principle. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of always speaking well of others or remaining silent. This isn't about being naive or ignoring legitimate issues, but it is about choosing constructive dialogue over destructive chatter and making a conscious choice to not engage in idle negativity. Think about the impact on your relationships. When you consistently avoid gossip, you become known as someone who can be trusted, someone who values directness and honesty. People will naturally gravitate towards you, knowing that their confidences are safe. Imagine the relief in knowing that you will never be the topic of conversation behind your back. Now take a moment to reflect. How often do you engage in gossip, even casually? What impact might this have on your relationships and your own sense of self-respect? Can you commit to shifting your focus towards direct communication and positive, constructive dialogue? It's a challenging habit to break, but the rewards are well worth the effort. It's often said that the quickest way to erode a relationship is by disregarding its established boundaries. Respecting boundaries isn't just about courtesy. It's deeply rooted in Stoic values of fairness and thoughtfulness toward others. It's about recognizing that each individual has a right to their own space, both physically and emotionally. Consider this powerful quote from Epictetus: "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." This not only speaks to self-awareness, but also subtly implies respecting the self-awareness and autonomy of others. In practice, this means a multitude of things. Are you a friend who consistently overstays their welcome, or perhaps the one who borrows things without asking? In romantic relationships, does expressing your needs or limitations feel like a battle? In professional settings, do you find yourself taking on more responsibilities than you can handle, then resenting it later? Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is a necessary act of self-preservation and respect for oneself, clarifying expectations and preventing resentment. Likewise, respecting the boundaries of others involves actively listening, observing their comfort levels, and honoring their requests even when it's inconvenient. So, take a moment to reflect on your own relationships. How well do you articulate and maintain your boundaries? Just as importantly, how diligently do you observe and respect those of the people in your life? Judgment often acts as a barrier, preventing us from truly connecting with others and understanding their perspectives. Instead of immediately labeling or judging, Stoicism encourages us to observe and understand, fostering genuine empathy. This approach aligns perfectly with Stoic principles, which emphasize rational assessment over emotional reaction. The goal isn't to ignore differences or excuse harmful behavior, but rather to evaluate situations and people with a clear, unbiased mind. By practicing non-judgment, we create space for more meaningful interactions based on reality, not preconceived notions. Marcus Aurelius wisely advised, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? This powerful question reminds us of our own imperfections and encourages a more compassionate approach towards others. In daily life, practicing non-judgment can be as simple as listening without interrupting, trying to understand someone's motivations before reacting, or challenging your own assumptions about why people behave the way they do. For instance, instead of immediately getting annoyed by a colleague's lateness, consider the possible reasons behind it. Perhaps they're dealing with an unexpected personal challenge. Take a moment to reflect on your own tendencies towards judgment. How often do you find yourself quickly forming opinions about others, and how might these judgments be affecting the quality of your relationships? Embracing a non-judgmental mindset can open doors to deeper understanding and stronger connections with those around you. It's often said that relationships thrive on trust, but what truly builds that trust? The answer, surprisingly, lies in vulnerability. Sharing your genuine self with all your imperfections and needs isn't a sign of weakness, but a profound act of strength that aligns perfectly with the Stoic pursuit of authenticity. Think about it. How can someone truly connect with you if they only see a curated version of your life? Stoicism teaches us to accept ourselves fully, and that includes acknowledging our emotions and needs. As Seneca wisely said, the mind must be called away from the superficial and drawn down to what is solid and genuine. This sentiment encourages us to move beyond surface-level interactions and engage with one another on a deeper, more meaningful level. Now, how does this look in practice? Imagine you're struggling with a project at work and it's affecting your mood at home. Instead of bottling it up, you could share your concerns with your partner. Voicing your challenges not only allows them to support you, but also demonstrates trust and invites them to reciprocate with their own vulnerabilities. This honest exchange fosters a deeper bond and creates a space for mutual understanding. Consider also how vulnerability plays a role in intimacy. Sharing your fears, dreams, and past experiences creates a rich tapestry of connection. It allows your partner to understand you on a deeper level, fostering compassion and empathy. This isn't about oversharing or seeking constant reassurance. It's about being open and honest about the things that truly matter. Take a moment to reflect. When have you been truly vulnerable in a relationship, and what was the outcome? Did it lead to greater understanding, stronger bonds, or a deeper sense of connection? Embracing vulnerability isn't always easy, but the rewards authentic relationships built on trust and mutual respect are well worth the effort. As you embrace vulnerability, remember that it's about progress, not perfection, and that every step towards authenticity strengthens not only your relationships, but also your own character. It's interesting to think about how differently we approach friendships compared to romantic relationships. We often place heavier expectations on our partners, while friendships sometimes drift without much notice. But what if we applied Stoic wisdom to our friendships, nurturing them with intention and understanding? Stoicism offers valuable tools for navigating the complexities of friendships. At its core, it encourages acceptance, understanding that friends, like all people, are imperfect and have their own paths to follow. This doesn't mean lowering our standards, but rather approaching friendships with realistic expectations. We recognize that friends may disappoint us, have different priorities, or simply not always be available in the way we'd like. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said that we should associate with people who are likely to improve us. This isn't about being calculating, but rather recognizing the profound influence our friends have on our character. Good friendships challenge us to grow, offer support during difficult times, and provide different perspectives. Imagine a friend consistently canceling plans at the last minute. Instead of reacting with anger or resentment, a Stoic approach might involve open communication, expressing your feelings calmly and directly. If the behavior continues, it might also mean accepting that this friend's organizational style doesn't align with your needs, adjusting your expectations accordingly, or even gently distancing yourself if the friendship becomes more frustrating than fulfilling. Consider how you can bring more Stoic principles into your friendships. Can you practice acceptance, focusing on what you appreciate rather than what you lack? How might you communicate more effectively, expressing your needs and boundaries with clarity and kindness? By applying these principles, you can cultivate deeper, more resilient friendships that enrich your life. There's a world of difference between reacting and responding, especially when emotions run high. Reacting is often impulsive, driven by immediate feelings, while responding involves a moment of reflection, a conscious choice. Stoicism places great importance on this space between what happens to us and how we choose to act. It's in that pause that freedom lies, the freedom to choose a reasoned response over a knee-jerk reaction. Epictetus wisely said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This sentiment gets to the heart of the Stoic approach to relationships. Situations will arise that test your patience, challenge your beliefs, or even provoke anger, but you always have a choice in how you meet those challenges. So, how can you cultivate this pause in your own life? One simple yet effective technique is deep breathing. When you feel yourself becoming agitated, take a moment to inhale deeply, hold the breath briefly, and then exhale slowly. This physiological action can help calm your nervous system, creating space for rational thought. Another approach is to count to 10 or even 20 before speaking or acting. This brief delay can provide the distance needed to assess the situation more objectively. Think about a time when you reacted poorly in a relationship. Perhaps you said something you later regretted, or perhaps you escalated a conflict unnecessarily. Now, consider how you might have handled that situation differently if you had paused, taken a breath, and responded thoughtfully. What different outcome might have been possible? It's these reflections that pave the way for more mindful, constructive interactions in all your relationships. We live in an age awash with information, a tidal wave of facts and figures readily available at our fingertips. Yet, true wisdom, the kind that genuinely transforms our lives and relationships, often feels frustratingly scarce. Wisdom, you see, isn't merely the accumulation of knowledge. It's about internalizing that information and putting it into practice. It's the art of applying what you know to how you live, especially within the complex dynamics of human connection. This aligns perfectly with the Stoic emphasis on action, on translating philosophical concepts into tangible improvements in our daily lives. Consider these words from Epictetus. For what does it profit you to philosophize if you do not do so in public, but do so correctly as far as lectures go, but in a pitiful manner as far as your actions are concerned? This reminds us that knowledge untested or unused is a wasted resource. For example, you might have read extensively about attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant. That's information, but wisdom comes when you recognize these patterns in yourself and your partner, using that understanding to communicate more effectively, preempt potential conflicts, and nurture a healthier, more secure bond. It's about moving beyond abstract concepts to real-world application. Now consider this: where in your relationships do you possess knowledge but perhaps lack the practical wisdom to truly make a difference? What information have you gathered that, if truly internalized and applied, could transform how you connect with those you care about most? Loss is as woven into the fabric of life as joy, and within the realm of relationships, this truth often presents itself with particular poignancy. The Stoics, recognizing the impermanent nature of all things, emphasize the acceptance of loss as a vital component of emotional resilience. This isn't about suppressing grief or denying the pain, but rather about meeting it with understanding and a commitment to growth. Marcus Aurelius wisely noted that everything is ephemeral, and this is especially true of our bonds with others. Relationships evolve, change, and sometimes they conclude. The Stoic approach encourages us to accept this transience with equanimity, understanding that while the end of a relationship can be deeply painful, it doesn't define our worth or preclude future happiness. Consider how you might respond when a relationship ends. Instead of succumbing to bitterness or despair, can you view it as an opportunity for self-reflection and learning? Perhaps it's a chance to identify patterns in your behavior, understand your needs better, or refine your approach to future relationships. Healthy coping mechanisms might involve journaling your thoughts and feelings, seeking support from friends or family, or engaging in activities that promote well-being and self-discovery. Now, turning inward for a moment, think back to a time when you experienced the end of a significant relationship. What lessons did you learn from that experience? What insights did it offer about yourself and your approach to relationships? Embracing the Stoic perspective allows us to transform loss from a source of anguish into a catalyst for personal evolution. It's hard to deny that social media often becomes a highlight reel, and it's easy to start measuring your own relationships against the seemingly perfect ones you see online. This constant comparison can breed envy, a truly destructive emotion that strikes at the heart of contentment. The Stoics saw envy as a particularly corrosive force, a sign of misplaced values and a lack of inner peace. Envy, in its essence, is a form of suffering we inflict upon ourselves. It arises from the belief that we are somehow lacking because someone else possesses something we desire, in this case, a seemingly ideal relationship. This not only diminishes our appreciation for what we have but also blinds us to the unique strengths and joys present in our own connections. It's a trap that keeps us perpetually chasing an illusion rather than cultivating genuine happiness. Marcus Aurelius wisely reminds us, do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they had not been yours. This sentiment perfectly encapsulates the Stoic approach to envy. Shift your focus from what you lack to what you already have. Recognize the unique value in your own relationships and cultivate gratitude for the love, companionship, and growth they bring into your life. So, how can we apply this wisdom in our hyper-connected world? First, be mindful of your social media consumption. Unfollow accounts that trigger feelings of inadequacy or envy. Second, actively practice gratitude for your own relationships. Take time each day to appreciate the small moments of connection and the unique qualities of your partner or loved ones. Third, focus on building a relationship based on your own values and needs, rather than trying to replicate someone else's perceived success. Take a moment and ask yourself, do you ever find yourself comparing your relationships to those of others? If so, what triggers those feelings, and what steps can you take to refocus on the positive aspects of your own connections? Recognizing this tendency is the first step toward cultivating contentment and steering clear of the envy trap. It's easy to say we care, but demonstrating that care through our actions is where true connection lies. Stoicism teaches us that our inner values should be reflected in our behavior, and this is especially important in relationships. It's not enough to simply utter the words, "I love you." We must show it through our deeds. The ancient philosopher Epictetus didn't directly say, "Actions speak louder than words," but he emphasized focusing on what is within our control, which is our actions. Translating feelings into tangible acts of kindness showcases a deeper level of commitment. This might involve something as simple as preparing a meal for your partner after a long day, offering a listening ear without interruption, or helping a friend with a task they find challenging. These small, consistent actions build trust and security far more effectively than grand gestures or empty promises. Think about the relationships in your life and consider how you can more actively demonstrate your appreciation. What small act of kindness could you offer today that would genuinely brighten someone's day and reinforce the bond you share? It's inevitable that relationships will face tough times. How we navigate those periods, however, profoundly shapes the strength and depth of our bonds. Stoicism emphasizes resilience, viewing challenges not as roadblocks but as opportunities for growth and deeper connection. It calls on us to face adversity with courage, fortified by reason and a shared commitment to weathering the storm. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials." This quote highlights the Stoic belief that adversity is essential for developing inner strength and strengthening relationships. When we face difficulties together, we learn about each other's character, resolve, and capacity for compassion. Consider a couple navigating financial difficulties or career setbacks. Instead of blaming each other or withdrawing, they could choose to face the challenge together by creating a budget, seeking new job opportunities, or learning new skills. Or think of friends supporting each other through personal losses. Active listening, empathy, and practical assistance can reinforce their bond and demonstrate the true meaning of friendship. Think back to a time when your relationship faced a significant challenge. What did you learn about yourself and your partner or friend? How can you proactively cultivate greater resilience in your relationships, ensuring they not only survive but thrive through adversity? Humility is truly the cornerstone of any healthy relationship, whether it's with a partner, a friend, or even a family member. The Stoics understood this deeply, placing immense value on self-awareness. It's about having the courage to look inward, to see your own flaws, and to accept that you aren't always right. Seneca put it beautifully when he said, "The more knowledge you have, the more you realize how little you know." This isn't meant to be discouraging. Rather, it's an invitation to embrace lifelong learning and personal growth, particularly within the context of our relationships. Think about it. How often do conflicts escalate simply because someone is unwilling to concede a point, even a minor one? Humility allows us to sidestep these unnecessary battles. For instance, imagine a disagreement with your partner about directions while driving. Instead of stubbornly insisting you're right, even when evidence suggests otherwise, a humble approach would be to say, "You know what, I think you might be right. Let's check the map." This simple act can diffuse tension and turn a potential argument into a collaborative problem-solving exercise. Or consider a situation at work where a colleague points out an error in your report. A defensive reaction might be to brush it off or make excuses. However, embracing humility means acknowledging the mistake, thanking your colleague for the feedback, and taking steps to correct it. This not only improves the quality of your work, but also strengthens your professional relationships by demonstrating your willingness to learn and grow. Now take a moment to consider a time when you found it particularly difficult to admit you were wrong. What was the situation? What emotions did you experience? And looking back, how could practicing a little more humility have changed the outcome? It's through this kind of self-reflection that we can begin to cultivate a more humble approach in all our interactions, ultimately leading to deeper, more fulfilling connections with others. Conflict is unavoidable in any relationship, but instead of viewing it as a purely negative experience, consider that it might be an opportunity for growth and deeper understanding. This perspective aligns strongly with Stoic principles, which encourage us to see obstacles not as roadblocks but as chances to practice virtue and resilience. The Stoics believed that difficulties are inherent to life, and it's our response to these difficulties that truly matters. As Seneca put it, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. When disagreements arise, approach them as opportunities to understand your partner's perspective better and to clarify your own values and needs. This reframing can be transformative. So, how can you navigate conflicts in a healthy and productive way? Start by actively listening to what the other person is saying without interrupting or formulating your response. Seek to truly understand their point of view, even if you don't agree with it. Next, express your own thoughts and feelings calmly and clearly, focusing on your own experience rather than blaming the other person. Finally, work together to find a solution that respects both your needs and values. This approach not only resolves the immediate conflict but also builds trust and strengthens your relationship. Think back to a conflict you experienced in a past relationship. Did it lead to a greater understanding of yourself, your partner, or the dynamics of the relationship itself? Reflecting on how disagreements have shaped your relationships can offer valuable insights into how you can approach future conflicts with greater wisdom and compassion. Shared aspirations can truly fortify the bonds we share with others. When you and your partner, friends, or family members are all pulling in the same direction, the relationship gains a sense of purpose and resilience that can withstand many challenges. Goal alignment resonates deeply with Stoic values, guiding us to live deliberately, rationally, and in harmony with the world around us. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius once noted, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." This serves as a potent reminder that our individual well-being is intertwined with the well-being of the groups we belong to. By consciously aligning our goals with those of our loved ones, we contribute to a greater good, fostering stronger, more meaningful connections. Consider a couple planning for retirement. Instead of each focusing solely on their individual financial goals, they could collaborate to create a shared vision for their future together. This might involve discussing where they want to live, how they want to spend their time, and what kind of legacy they want to leave. Similarly, friends who are passionate about environmental conservation could team up to organize local clean-up events, turning their shared values into tangible action. Now, take a moment to consider your own relationships. How well do your personal goals align with those of the people closest to you? In what areas could you work together more effectively, creating a stronger sense of shared purpose and mutual support? Reflecting on these questions will help you to embrace the power of unified goals. Humor has an incredible capacity to diffuse tension and inject joy into our lives. It's a tool, often underestimated, that can help us navigate the inevitable ups and downs that relationships bring. But how does a sense of humor fit into the often serious philosophy of Stoicism? Well, it's all about perspective. While you won't find Marcus Aurelius cracking jokes in Meditations, the Stoics deeply valued maintaining a clear, rational perspective, and humor can be a powerful way to achieve that. It allows us to detach from difficult situations, to see them from a different angle, and to recognize the absurdity that sometimes underlies our conflicts and frustrations. Think about it this way: how often has a well-timed joke or a light-hearted comment diffused a tense argument with a loved one? Perhaps you and your partner are disagreeing about whose turn it is to do the dishes. Instead of escalating into a full-blown battle of wills, you might make a silly comment about starting a dishwashing strike, lightening the mood and opening the door to a more rational discussion. Or consider the pressure of meeting your partner's family for the first time. Nerves are high and you're worried about making a good impression. Sharing a self-deprecating story about a past social blunder can break the ice, showing that you don't take yourself too seriously and creating a more relaxed atmosphere. So, how can you bring more of this beneficial lightness into your relationships? Start by noticing the moments when tension is building. Could a bit of humor help to shift the energy? It doesn't mean making light of serious issues, but rather finding ways to gently poke fun at the everyday absurdities of life. What small adjustments can you make to not take everything so seriously all the time? Attachment, while often seen as a sign of love, can paradoxically become a source of immense suffering in our relationships. The fear of loss, the need for control, these stem from a deep attachment that can suffocate the very joy we seek. Stoicism offers a different path, non-attachment. This isn't about indifference or emotional coldness. It's about recognizing that while we can deeply cherish our relationships, our happiness shouldn't hinge entirely on them. It means understanding that people are free to make their own choices, and that change and separation are natural parts of life. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said something that really resonates here. You can lose nothing if you first realize that you own nothing. This idea underscores the wisdom of non-attachment, reminding us to value experiences and connections without clinging to them as possessions. How does this translate into real life? In a romantic relationship, it might mean supporting your partner's growth and independence, even if it means they pursue interests outside the relationship. With family, it could involve accepting loved ones for who they are, rather than trying to mold them into our ideal. In friendships, it's about being there without demanding constant attention or validation. Take a moment to consider your own relationships. Where do you feel most attached? What fears arise when you contemplate the possibility of change or loss? Cultivating non-attachment isn't easy, but it begins with this awareness, with a conscious effort to appreciate the present moment without trying to control the future. It's about accepting the ebb and flow of relationships, knowing that true connection thrives on mutual respect and freedom, not on chains of dependency. It's a path to greater peace and resilience in all your interactions. Avoiding difficult conversations might seem like the easy path, but in reality, it can often lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and ultimately, damage the very relationships we seek to protect. Courageous conversations, while challenging, are deeply aligned with Stoic values. Honesty and integrity are cornerstones of Stoic philosophy, and these virtues often require us to speak our minds even when it's uncomfortable. It's about acting in accordance with reason and virtue, rather than being driven by fear of confrontation. Seneca reminds us, the truth is strong and sometime or other will prevail. This highlights the Stoic belief that even when difficult, truth is essential. By facing challenging situations head-on, we reduce the potential for long-term damage and improve the quality of our interactions with others. So, how can we approach these courageous conversations constructively? Start by focusing on facts and observations rather than making assumptions or accusations. Use I statements to express your feelings and perspectives, and actively listen to the other person's point of view. Remember, the goal is not to win an argument, but to reach mutual understanding and resolution. Think about the conversations you've been putting off. What fears or anxieties are holding you back? How could you reframe these conversations as opportunities to practice Stoic virtues like honesty, courage, and reason? Consider how taking that first step might ultimately lead to stronger, healthier relationships. One of the most valuable resources we have in navigating relationships is the collection of experiences we've gathered along the way. These experiences, particularly the less positive ones, offer incredible opportunities for growth and understanding. This idea resonates deeply with Stoicism, a philosophy that emphasizes self-awareness and constant self-improvement. Think about it. Stoicism teaches us to examine our actions and reactions with honesty. This includes acknowledging when we've made mistakes. There is no weakness in admitting fault. In fact, it's a strength, as it allows us to adjust our course and build better relationships moving forward. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively and eloquently on the value of learning from everything, so we should use our mistakes as stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. Consider this example. Perhaps you've noticed a tendency to become overly critical in your romantic relationships. Recognizing this pattern doesn't make you a bad person. Instead, it empowers you to actively work on developing more supportive and understanding communication skills. Or maybe you've realized that you repeatedly choose partners who aren't emotionally available. This realization can become an important signal to reassess your selection criteria and explore why you might be drawn to that dynamic in the first place. Now it's time to turn the lens inward. Ask yourself, what recurring themes or challenges have you encountered in your past relationships? What valuable lessons can you extract from those experiences to create more fulfilling and meaningful connections in the future? This kind of reflection, this dedication to learning from our past, is at the very heart of Stoic wisdom and is key to building better relationships. Family relationships, while often the most profound in our lives, can also be the most complex and challenging. The deep bonds we share with family members can make it difficult to apply objective reasoning, but it's precisely in these relationships where Stoic principles can be most transformative. Adapting Stoicism to family dynamics means recognizing that while we can't control the actions or personalities of our relatives, we can control our reactions to them. It's about practicing acceptance of their flaws and imperfections, understanding that they, like us, are works in progress. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior, but rather choosing how we respond and whether we allow their actions to disturb our inner peace. Epictetus wisely noted, "It is not things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about these things." This holds especially true within families. Often, our long histories and ingrained expectations lead to judgments and frustrations. By consciously reframing our perspective, we can mitigate these disturbances. Consider, for instance, a recurring disagreement with a sibling. A Stoic approach might involve acknowledging that you cannot change their viewpoint, but you can choose to approach the conversation with empathy and a focus on what you can control: your own words, your tone, and your willingness to find common ground. Or perhaps a parent consistently offers unsolicited advice. Instead of reacting defensively, try to recognize their intentions likely stem from care and concern, and practice patience and understanding. Think about one family relationship you find particularly challenging. How might the Stoic principles of acceptance, focusing on what you can control, and reframing your judgments help you navigate that relationship more effectively? What does justice really look like when we bring it into our personal relationships? It goes beyond simple legal definitions. It's about weaving fairness, equity, and moral conduct into the everyday fabric of our interactions. For the Stoics, justice wasn't just a virtue, it was the bedrock upon which trust and respect were built. Think about how your actions and decisions ripple outward, either reinforcing or eroding the sense of fairness in your relationships. Are you giving equal consideration to the needs and perspectives of those you care about? Or are you, perhaps unintentionally, creating imbalances that foster resentment? Marcus Aurelius once said, "Just as you are yourself a component part of a social system, so let every act of yours be a component part of social life. This reminds us that every interaction, no matter how small, contributes to the overall health and harmony of our relationships. Consider this. Imagine a partnership where one person consistently shoulders the majority of household responsibilities while the other enjoys more leisure time. Or a friendship where one individual's opinions and preferences always take precedence, overshadowing the other's desires. These scenarios, though common, highlight a lack of justice and equity that can slowly chip away at the foundation of the relationship. So take a moment to reflect on your own relationships. Are there areas where you could bring more fairness and equal consideration? Are you actively working to ensure that everyone feels valued, respected, and heard? Cultivating justice in our relationships isn't always easy, but it's essential for building strong, lasting connections. It's often said that relationships deepen when people share a common goal. When two people unite around something meaningful, the connection can become exceptionally strong. This aligns closely with the Stoic ideal of living a virtuous life, finding significance in contributing to something bigger than ourselves and in turn strengthening our relationships. Marcus Aurelius once wrote about the importance of having a guiding purpose, stating that a person should always have a clear, moral aim directing their actions. This holds true in relationships as well. Shared purpose doesn't have to involve grand gestures. It can be as simple as volunteering together at a local charity, working towards a fitness goal as a couple, or even starting a shared creative project like writing a blog or learning a new skill. Consider the example of a couple who decide to dedicate their weekends to cleaning up local parks. Their relationship moves beyond simple companionship to shared accomplishment. Likewise, friends who commit to mentoring underprivileged youth together often find a new dimension to their friendship. These shared activities create a sense of teamwork and mutual respect, helping you to appreciate each other's strengths and values in action. So, what is your own sense of purpose? And more importantly, how can that purpose be woven into the fabric of your most important relationships, creating a connection that's not just enjoyable but also deeply meaningful? Attachment to specific outcomes in our relationships is a recipe for disappointment. The Stoics understood this deeply, emphasizing that our primary focus should be on virtuous action rather than the results we expect. This isn't to say that we shouldn't care about our relationships or strive to make them better, but rather that our happiness shouldn't hinge on whether others behave in a way that meets our expectations. The core of this principle lies in recognizing what we can and cannot control. We control our own actions, intentions, and virtues. We can choose to be kind, honest, and supportive partners, friends, or family members. However, we can't control how others will respond or the ultimate outcome of the relationship. A Stoic focuses on doing what is right and virtuous regardless of the result. Epictetus put it well when he said, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control." This quote encapsulates the essence of detachment. It's about recognizing the boundaries of your influence and directing your energy where it can make a genuine difference within yourself. Consider this: you might strive to be the most supportive and understanding partner possible, but you can't force your significant other to reciprocate in the same way. Or perhaps you're a devoted friend, always there to lend an ear and offer advice, but you can't control whether your friend takes your advice or makes choices that you believe are in their best interest. In these situations, practicing detachment means accepting that you've done your part, acting with virtue, and releasing the need to control the outcome. You avoid disappointment by measuring your success by your own virtuous actions, not by the actions of others. Think about a time when you held specific expectations in a relationship. Perhaps you anticipated a certain level of appreciation or a particular response to your efforts. How did it feel when those expectations weren't met? Could you have approached the situation with greater detachment, focusing instead on your own virtuous actions and intentions? Embracing this Stoic principle can free you from the emotional roller coaster of unmet expectations, allowing you to cultivate healthier, more fulfilling relationships based on genuine connection and mutual respect. So, if we're going to successfully navigate the inevitable storms that relationships bring, developing inner strength isn't just helpful, it's essential. The Stoics didn't shy away from this. Instead, they placed a significant emphasis on becoming resilient and self-reliant. At the heart of this idea is the cultivation of virtue. Stoics believed that true strength comes not from external sources like wealth or status, but from within, from developing qualities like wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. By focusing on what we can control, our own thoughts and actions, we build a solid foundation of inner strength. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully when he said, "Remember that nothing can injure your soul unless it consents." This quote encapsulates the Stoic understanding that our perception and reaction to events, rather than the events themselves, determine our inner state. It's about finding that unshakable core within ourselves. But how do we actually build this inner fortress? Mindfulness practices can be a great starting point. By paying attention to our thoughts and emotions without judgment, we become more aware of our internal landscape and better equipped to manage our reactions. Pursuing personal goals, independent of our relationships, is another powerful way to cultivate self-reliance and a sense of accomplishment. This could be anything from learning a new skill to training for a marathon. Take a moment to consider, what are your current sources of inner strength? Are you drawing from healthy habits, meaningful pursuits, or a strong sense of self? And what steps can you take today to further cultivate that inner resilience so you can handle whatever challenges come your way, in or out of relationships? It's easy to see how acting on impulse can damage our relationships. That quick, unconsidered reaction, that sharp words spoken in anger, these moments can erode trust and create lasting rifts. But what if we could cultivate the ability to pause, to reflect, and to choose a more measured response? This is where self-discipline, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, comes into play. It's directly linked to the Stoic virtue of temperance, which is all about moderation and controlling our passions. Think of it as a crucial skill for navigating the complexities of human interaction. Seneca, a prominent Stoic philosopher, wisely noted, "He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city." This quote beautifully encapsulates the power and value of controlling one's impulses, suggesting that true strength lies not in outward force but in inward mastery. Consider this: you're in a heated discussion with your partner and you feel your anger rising. Without self-discipline, you might lash out, saying something hurtful that you'll later regret. But with self-discipline, you can recognize that surge of emotion, take a breath, and respond thoughtfully, perhaps by saying, "I need a moment to process this before I can continue." That small pause can make all the difference. It demonstrates respect, not just for the other person, but for yourself. So, I encourage you to take a moment to consider, how well do you currently manage your reactions in your relationships? Are there situations where you tend to be more impulsive, and what triggers those responses? Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward cultivating greater self-discipline and ultimately building stronger, more resilient relationships. It's a simple truth that none of us possesses all the wisdom needed to navigate the complexities of relationships entirely on our own. That's where the principle of seeking mentorship and guidance truly shines. This willingness to learn from others isn't a sign of weakness. Rather, it's a testament to a Stoic's commitment to continuous self-improvement, using the experiences of others to refine our understanding and actions. Seneca wisely noted that we should associate with those who will make us better. This notion really emphasizes the importance of learning from others. Seeking out individuals who have successfully navigated relationship challenges can provide invaluable insights. Their experiences can act as a guide, helping us avoid common pitfalls and discover new strategies for fostering healthier, more fulfilling connections. So, how do you actually go about finding these mentors or role models? Start by looking within your existing network. Perhaps there are friends, family members, or even colleagues whose relationships you admire. Don't hesitate to approach them and ask for advice, or simply observe their interactions and learn from their example. You might also consider seeking guidance from relationship therapists, counselors, or even authors who specialize in relationship dynamics. Remember that learning from others is a powerful way to enhance your own approach to relationships. With that in mind, take a moment to consider this. Who in your life could offer valuable insights into building stronger, healthier relationships? Identifying these potential mentors is the first step toward gaining wisdom and improving your relational intelligence. Two people can witness the same event and walk away with completely different stories. This isn't just a quirk of human nature, it's a fundamental aspect of how we experience the world, especially within our relationships. Remember, the Stoics believed it's not the events themselves that upset us, but rather our judgments about those events. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This wisdom is incredibly powerful when applied to relationships. Think about it. A partner forgets to do a chore. One person might see it as a sign of disrespect or laziness, leading to anger and resentment. Another might view it as a simple oversight, easily forgiven and forgotten. The event is the same, but the emotional outcome is vastly different, all because of perception. Consider a time when you felt slighted by a friend's comment. Perhaps they made a joke that stung a little too sharply. Your initial reaction might have been hurt or anger. But what if, instead of dwelling on the perceived insult, you reframed it? What if you considered they were simply trying to be funny, or that they were having a bad day themselves? Shifting your perception doesn't excuse hurtful behavior, but it does give you the power to choose your emotional response and prevent unnecessary conflict. Think about how you might reframe common relationship challenges. Is your partner late for dates? Instead of assuming they don't value your time, consider they might struggle with time management. Does your friend seem distant? Maybe they're dealing with something personal that they're not ready to share. By consciously choosing to see situations in a more compassionate light, you can significantly improve the quality of your relationships and foster deeper understanding. Can you recall a situation where changing your perception led to a more positive outcome in a relationship? Understanding the power of perception is about more than just positive thinking. It's about taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being and building stronger connections with the people you care about. It's so easy to let the daily grind overshadow the simple, beautiful interactions we have with those closest to us. We rush through conversations, multitask during meals, and sometimes forget to truly see the people we love. But within these ordinary moments lies an extraordinary potential for connection and joy, a truth that resonates deeply with Stoic philosophy. The Stoics teach us to value the present moment, to find contentment not in grand achievements but in the everyday. As Seneca wisely said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. This reminds us each moment, no matter how small, is a new opportunity. It's a chance to appreciate what we have right here and right now. How do we translate this into our relationships? It could be as simple as making eye contact during a conversation, truly listening without interruption, or expressing genuine gratitude for a home-cooked meal. It might involve a spontaneous hug, a handwritten note, or simply setting aside phones during family time to be fully present. These small acts of kindness and attention are investments in our connections, nurturing bonds that withstand the test of time. Think for a moment, how can you today find more joy in your daily interactions with loved ones? Is there a simple gesture you can offer, a moment of connection you can create? The Stoic path invites us to seek joy not in what we lack, but in what we already possess, transforming ordinary moments into extraordinary opportunities for love and connection. Values are the bedrock upon which we build our decisions, our lives, and importantly, our relationships. When you think about it, shared values aren't just nice to have, they're essential for fostering deep, enduring connections. These shared principles act like a compass, guiding partners through the inevitable storms of life, ensuring they're navigating by the same moral and ethical stars. From a Stoic perspective, shared values become even more critical. Stoicism emphasizes living a virtuous life, guided by wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. When you share these core values with someone, you're not just aligned on the surface, you're united in your commitment to living a life of meaning and integrity. This shared commitment creates a powerful bond, strengthening the relationship against external pressures and internal conflicts. Seneca once said, "To be like-minded is to be friends." This simple statement encapsulates the Stoic understanding of friendship and relationships. It's not just about enjoying each other's company, it's about sharing a fundamental understanding of what's right, what's important, and how to live a good life. When partners or friends share these values, they naturally support each other's growth, encouraging each other to stay true to their principles and to strive for virtue in all aspects of life. Consider, for example, a couple where both partners highly value honesty and integrity. They're more likely to navigate difficult conversations with openness and transparency, building a foundation of trust that can withstand challenges. Or perhaps two friends both value justice and compassion. They might find themselves drawn to similar causes, working together to make a positive impact on their community, further strengthening their bond through shared purpose and action. Now take a moment to reflect on your own life. What values are most important to you, and how well do those values align with the people closest to you? Understanding these alignments or misalignments can provide valuable insight into the health and potential of your relationships. It might even guide you towards a deeper understanding of yourself and your path to living a more virtuous life. How often are we truly present when we're with the people we care about? So often our minds are elsewhere, caught up in worries about the future, replaying past events, or simply scrolling through our phones. Practicing mindfulness in our relationships means consciously focusing on the here and now, giving our full attention to the person in front of us. This idea aligns perfectly with Stoic philosophy, which emphasizes living in accordance with nature. Being mindful is a natural way of being, a way of connecting with the world and with others in a genuine and meaningful way. When we are truly present, we can understand others deeply, respond with thoughtful intention, and cultivate stronger, more resilient relationships. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's at hand with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice, and on freeing yourself from all other considerations." This quote underscores the Stoic belief in the power of focusing our attention on the current moment and acting virtuously in our interactions. So, how can we bring more mindfulness into our daily interactions? Start small. Put away your phone when you're talking to someone. Make eye contact and actively listen to what they're saying without interrupting or planning your response. Pay attention to their body language and emotional cues. ask clarifying questions, and show genuine interest in their thoughts and feelings. Take a moment to consider, in what specific areas of your relationships could you benefit from being more fully present? Where do you find yourself most easily distracted? And what small steps can you take to shift your focus back to the present moment and the person you are with? It's often challenging to admit when we've made a mistake, especially when it affects those closest to us. But within Stoicism lies a profound emphasis on self-awareness and moral accountability, urging us to own our actions and understand their impact. This isn't about wallowing in guilt, but rather about recognizing our capacity to influence our relationships positively through responsible behavior. Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, "To begin is half the work, let that beget another, and then you have finished." This quote isn't just about starting tasks, it's about initiating the process of taking responsibility. It suggests that acknowledging the need for change, even if it's uncomfortable, sets us on the path to improving ourselves and our connections with others. Consider a scenario where you've unintentionally hurt a partner's feelings through a careless comment. Instead of becoming defensive or shifting blame, taking responsibility involves acknowledging the impact of your words and apologizing sincerely. This act of ownership can rebuild trust and foster deeper understanding. Similarly, in a professional setting, admitting a mistake and proactively working to correct it demonstrates integrity and strengthens working relationships. Think about a time when you might have avoided taking full responsibility for your actions in a relationship. How did that affect the situation, and what could you have done differently by embracing ownership? Recognizing the power we have to shape our relationships through personal responsibility is a cornerstone of Stoic wisdom, helping us build stronger and healthier bonds. In relationships, our minds seek connection just as much as our hearts do. Intellectual intimacy is about sharing ideas, learning together, and engaging in conversations that truly matter. For Stoics, this kind of intimacy aligns perfectly with their focus on reason, knowledge, and lifelong learning. Consider Seneca's words, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This isn't just about surface-level chatter, but about finding partners who challenge you, encourage intellectual growth, and share a thirst for understanding the world. How can you cultivate this deeper connection? It could be as simple as reading books together and discussing the ideas they spark, attending lectures or workshops that pique both your interests, or even engaging in thoughtful debates on important topics. The key is to create a space where you both feel comfortable sharing your thoughts, questioning assumptions, and learning from each other's perspectives. So, take a moment to consider how much intellectual intimacy is present in your closest relationships. Are you challenging each other to grow or simply going through the motions? Conflicts, especially with those we care about, can feel all-consuming in the heat of the moment. It's easy to get caught up in the details, the emotions, and the immediate sense of being right. Yet, Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to this tunnel vision, the practice of maintaining perspective. This isn't about dismissing your feelings or pretending the conflict doesn't matter. Instead, it's about applying detachment and rational assessment to gain a broader, more balanced view of the situation. The Stoics believed that many of our emotional reactions stem not from the events themselves, but from our judgments about those events. By stepping back, we can begin to question those judgments and see the situation more objectively. Marcus Aurelius advised, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Reflect on this. Often, the fallout from our reactions far outweighs the initial problem. So, how can we put this into practice during a disagreement? One helpful technique is to literally create distance. If possible, excuse yourself from the immediate situation to take a few minutes to breathe and collect your thoughts. Ask yourself, what is the real issue here? What are the other person's motivations? What will matter in a week, a month, or a year? Reframing the conflict in this way can help diffuse the emotional intensity and open the door to a more constructive dialogue. Think back to a time when you were in a disagreement, perhaps with a friend, family member, or partner. Can you recall a moment when gaining some perspective allowed you to see the situation differently, leading to a resolution or at least a better understanding? Recognizing the power of perspective is a critical step toward more harmonious relationships and a more peaceful life. Let's consider beginning each day with intention, specifically setting our minds towards virtuous actions in our relationships. This aligns perfectly with the Stoic emphasis on proactive self-improvement, making a morning routine a powerful tool. Marcus Aurelius wisely suggested that we should prepare ourselves before each day begins, anticipating the kinds of people we will encounter and how we can best interact with them. Imagine using this mindset to intentionally shape your interactions. Practically, this could involve specific prompts for morning reflection. For instance, you might ask yourself, how can I practice more patience with my partner today? Or where can I show greater empathy and understanding towards my family? It's about visualizing how you can embody virtues in your daily interactions. Consider adopting such a Stoic morning ritual, focusing on how you can actively improve your relationships through conscious thought and action. This shifts the focus from reacting to situations to mindfully shaping your approach. So, we've journeyed through 50 different ways Stoicism can reshape how you view and navigate relationships. It's quite a toolkit, isn't it? Think back to the common threads woven throughout these principles. The strength found in emotional detachment, the power of truly being present with those you care about, and the resilience we cultivate when facing inevitable challenges. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're practical tools for building stronger, healthier connections. Remember, Stoicism isn't about becoming emotionless or isolating yourself. It's about understanding what is truly within your control, your thoughts, actions, and reactions, and focusing your energy there. This understanding, when applied to relationships, allows you to approach them with greater wisdom, compassion, and fortitude. Let's consider this powerful thought from Epictetus. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those